Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. That's the thing, it's so much of a gamble. This is what plagued Alonso's career for so long. You always look in hindsight, I'd be like, oh, well, that was the wrong decision. Well, yeah, you say that at the time. But at the time, it probably wasn't the wrong decision. And he's taken this gamble on Aston Martin at the moment, which, I mean, from what we've seen in testing, looks like it might be about to pay off in a big way.
Yeah, a lot of hype around that team. There's a lot of, I mean, I've been kind of right on that bandwagon.
Are we on the gas? Should we get the oxygen tanks?
Yeah.
Are we inhaling the gas?
Aston Martin copium.
For this one?
Well, it's not even copium.
No, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Hopium.
Yeah, hopium.
Exactly. No, I am all here for it. I am all here for it. To even think about Fernando potentially having like maybe a podium capable car. He's that type of driver where you give him an inch and he'll take a mile. Like, he will absolutely push that team to the ragged edge. Now, it might be over the limit at some point, but whatever car they're going to give him, I'm excited, because Fernando Alonso, he's still operating at such a high level. He's still,
you can't argue with that.
And it's something I've always said, whether you love or you hate Fernando Alonso, he's box office. There's always something going on with him, like either good or bad.
Everyone feels something.
There's a drama.
You love him, or you know what I mean?
There's not a single person who's just like, neutral.
No one
has like no real opinion.
It's like one way or the other. Like, you either despise him or you just love him.
That's a trait of like the greats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that doesn't matter what sport you're talking about.
But that's also, I think, his
divisive.
personality as
He's
well.
Zlatan.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because he is like the biggest hype man for himself. Like, there's no one else. He loves to gas himself up. Like, he knows that he feels like he's the greatest of all time, honestly. Like, that's
what was
why.
that clip of him talking?
So it was right after preseason testing. He's at some kind of like Aston Martin, maybe like sponsor event. And first of all, no one knows what all of the other teams are doing, but he's like, yeah, both of us and Ferrari had like 57 laps of fuel doing like race stints. And we were actually quicker than Ferrari. And then you can hear the crowd like going, ooh.
No, that's because it's all the shareholders.
Literally.
Waiting for my
And it's just like, you don't even know what engine mode anyone's running, but you keep gassing yourself and Aston Martin up. I'm loving it, bro. But he's kind of setting himself up for either being absolutely incredible or massive failure, basically.
And this is the thing, right? As much as, we don't know fuel loads, the paddock's a very small place. Word does travel.
Yeah.
These rumours typically, when they're so, such strong rumours amongst people, you get rumours on Twitter and all that nonsense. When there's strong rumours from within the paddock, right?
Are you saying Twitter is not a reliable source of information?
Source Twitter.
What?
When that's the case, I feel like you can give a lot more, like, credibility to rumours like that. When it's, because people talk like these team personnel, like they fly on planes with each other. Everyone's it's not like super, like everyone's just in their own lane.
Stefano, what engine mode were you running?
Yeah, that's what I mean. People would definitely chat and be like, oh yeah, Fernando's actually running full tank and he's looking pretty quick. So, but I don't know. Do you think that this is, because one thing as well, if we are saying Aston Martin, people talking about them as high as like second, third.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's people they're saying like even quicker than Mercedes. Those people need to chill out just a little bit.
That's probably cap, I'll be honest.
They're your customers, and that's the apprentice versus the
master.
Yeah, there you go.
Fernando's type, was it day 3 where he was third? I can't remember.
So day 1 he was second.
Kind of model.
Yeah, I think day 1 he was second behind Verstappen, and I think
it was the long run.
Yeah, and I think day 2 was also quite good as well. But the thing is, even from people that I've like read, like the race and stuff, like just watching the car, like forgetting the times, it just looks good. Like some cars where you're watching trackside, and I experienced this last year. Like, it's actually amazing. And I'm not, obviously, I don't analyze cars, but as a fan, when you actually look at a car and like, especially when you focus on one corner, you can tell when someone's like ragging a car and just like getting the lap time out of it. Yeah. And then the other drivers are just, the lap time's coming easy. Like, the car is not even moving. It looks like there's way more left in the tank. And that's what people are saying, that the Aston Martin it looks boringly quick. Like, there's plenty more left. So that's why people are excited. Like, when you look at the Alpine, for example, it was like bouncing about everywhere. And you can see the drivers like,
stiff.
They're pushing it, but it's hard work. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's why people are excited, because the body language of the car just looks good.
Yeah.
And obviously in Fernando's
body language of the car.
There you go. See?
And that's
expert analysis right here.
That's the thing. In Fernando's hands, it also makes it, if they're going to be fighting to get into the top 3.
Just realised,
Seb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he kind of, it was almost, that was the plan. And he's left just early. As it's maybe starting to deliver.
I feel like he doesn't care, though. Part of me thinks that Sebastian Vettel would have just been like, even if the car had genuinely got like close to competing at the end of the season, would have just been like, Nah, man, I just want to go fishing or something. I don't need Formula One anymore. I don't know.
I think he was chilling. He's got 4 world championships. Like, I think the last few Aston Martin years, like, it was just a punt for him after Aston Martin. Like, maybe they strike gold again because they were so good in 2020. Like, maybe somehow they'll be great. But I think Vettel's more than content with being a 4-time world champion, driving for Red Bull and Ferrari, and he was just like, I'm decent. I'm going to go, fishing with the kids, bro.
You know what this does mean, though? Lance Stroll could be fighting for serious podiums.
Could you imagine another Stroll masterclass?
Once he gets better, we still don't know how long he's going to be out for with his broken wrist.
True.
And we were
by the way,
talking about
I knew
that.
this was going to happen. When they were like, he's been in a cycling accident, and he was like, he'll be out for testing. I was like, you know the race is like a week after.
Yeah,
He ain't making it.
We were talking like, a broken wrist is not like, I'll just bandage that up. I'll be fine later. You know,
He's
like,
driving as well. Like, he kind of needs that a little
that's
bit.
like
So
2-3 weeks, surely.
F1 drivers need to get like they need to wear more padding on these bikes because Fernando really hurt himself, didn't he, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, but Fernando's built different. Like he had a bike crash, had jaw surgery, and he was still in testing. He was still turned up. Like, I'm fine.
couldn't
I'm fine.
speak. Like, he's doing sign language in the post-race interview.
That's a very Fernando thing, though. He just pushes through the pain. No, I think, Stroll's obviously it's going to be a bit of a setback. They've confirmed that if he can't make the first race, which it's not looking likely, then Felipe Drogovic will deputise, and he seemed to do a pretty good job. F2 champion last year in testing.
I'm happy to see him get the chance.
I am as well, actually.
Yeah, look, as much as obviously the vibe of Vettel and Alonso in an Aston Martin, right? Vettel replacing Stroll just for the start of the season, immaculate. Like, don't get me wrong,
could
right?
you
Of
imagine?
course, but like Seb's had his time, he's retired. Felipe deserves this opportunity. He's a reserve driver for a reason. He's done that mileage and testing. Seb's not going to be like physically prepared either to jump into that car because he's
not done any training.
Yeah, he did look like he had a dad bod by the end of
he's been at Burger King every other day. Or maybe we don't know. Like, he's living that life, that post F1 life.
Exactly.
So
He's just treating himself.
yeah,
Share box of nuggets. It's fine.
but
All of the above, mate.
one thing I do want to ask, and we've talked about this driver time and time again, but is Lance Stroll, if they're going to be fighting with maybe Mercedes P3,
let him finish.
there we
let
go.
him finish.
No, you know what, that clearly sets your standard of where you are with Lance.
Let Niran cook.
Let me shove it up. Who let him cook? Who let Lance
Is
cook?
he going to be the part that holds that team back? Because when you're
Okay, I
fighting
want to
in
change my answer now.
when you're fighting in the midfield, I'm wondering what you thought I was going to ask.
I thought you were just going to say, is he good enough? I was like, no.
No, because I think Lance is like a very capable F1 driver.
Yeah,
Do I
he
think
is.
he's got the talent to fight at the very front for a championship? No, I don't. Not in my opinion.
Fernando said he does.
Fernando might have said he does, and maybe he does. But like in a midfield car, I think having Lance Stroll as a driver, that's fine. Yeah, he makes a few silly decisions, but he also got in the points quite a lot last year. Do we think if they're going to really break into this top 3, does Lawrence have to then be like, you know what, Lance, we'll get you a seat for another team lower down the order, and
I'll
we'll
buy you another team. Don't worry about that.
The man's a multi-billionaire. Like, we're talking what Ted Kravitz saying about £1 billion for a team. So he could just buy another. He could buy AlphaTauri off of Red Bull.
Buy
They're thinking about
AlphaTauri, call
selling.
it Lagonda, make it like the Aston Martin, B team. Lance, you go in there.
Yeah, go there, mate.
I'll
No, genuinely, though. Do you think if you were Lawrence Stroll, if you were Lance Stroll's dad,
Made the Christmas
what would you? No, what would you do though if you're fighting at the front and you feel like Lance is that going to hold you back from not only getting a constructors but also being that support to your number one driver is not close enough, then to then stop you winning a championship as well? What would you do?
I mean, I think at the moment when it comes to Lance Stroll, he is driving. In my opinion, Lance is a good driver. Let's just get that kind of straight. He is a good
He's not a
driver.
Latifi.
He is not a Latifi. This guy,
he's very
like I've talked about, in his rookie season, he scored a podium. He also is the youngest ever person to start on the front row in Formula One. And when he was given some good cars, like he was, that pole position in, I think, Turkey 2020.
It was great in
All of
the
these,
wet.
and also he's very good in the wet, and that is a mark of a good driver.
Yeah.
You cannot just be a mug and turn up and have a good race in the wet. So there is talent there, but he is one of the most inconsistent drivers on the grid, and that's his biggest Achilles heel. And I think at the moment, so again, he is a good driver, but at the moment, he is driving, in my opinion, at his level. In the midfield, maybe fighting for a P5 or a P6 on a really good day, maybe a podium on a madness day. That's where I think his level is. I don't think he's built for that top 3 or top 2 teams kind of fighting for the wins when all of the pressure is, that scrutiny is on you every single time, because we're watching, I've said, like, the 6 drivers in the top 3 teams, like Sergio Perez at the moment is probably maybe the worst of those 6 drivers, with Carlos Sainz, and Perez was way better than Stroll. So that gives you a little bit of gives you a bit of a comparison. And look at how Perez, some people are looking at Perez and going like, he's not doing a good enough job, he should even be at Red Bull. And that's the pressure that Lance is going to come under when you're given a race-winning car.
Yeah. I always look at Valtteri Bottas as well and how highly rated Bottas was at Williams.
He was a great driver,
Went to Mercedes and then just kind of got a bit slapped. Again, was sick on his day, and it wasn't like he was finishing like 7th in the championship in Mercedes or whatever, but like our perception of Bottas changed so much when he was in a top one car.
Definitely.
Lance Stroll already has the perception of realistically, you could just slap anyone else in that car, or not anyone else, but like you could slap a couple of F2 drivers in that car and they might do better. If you then saw him in the environment of a top 3 car, Jesus Christ, that could really
pressure.
That could really.
And that's why that whole kind of, the first job is to beat your teammate. That's why that narrative is such a true one, because that is where you get ultimately judged. You can only really be judged relative to your teammate because the cars are so different. And maybe as time goes on and if these cars start to come within, a second, from front to back in qualifying, as these cars get more similar, we will hopefully see the drivers then, like we see in the junior categories more so, the driver makes a bigger difference. Yes, you do still need to be at a good team, but you can, if you've got a good driver, that can make the difference. It doesn't matter how well, Alex Albon was driving last year, he's not winning a race on merit. Like, that's not going to happen because he doesn't have the package underneath him. So it's like, as much as I'd love it to, that would be the dream, of course. But I guess where, Red Bull it ended the season particularly so dominant. First third of the season, you'd be like Ferrari right up there, but it went very ski whiff for them. But it's looking ominous.
What does that mean, by the way? I've never heard that before.
You never heard ski whiff?
Ski whiff? Where does that come from?
Whiff. Just like dodgy. Like whiff.
I'm gonna have to add that to my dictionary, add that to my locker.
I was gonna say that's a good one.
I can't remember the last time I said that. But what do we think? Because it is looking ominous, Red Bull. They're looking good.
Yeah.
Max was very confident, very happy, smiles all round at Red Bull.
Yeah.
It was one of those, I think it was one of those testing experiences where like, he didn't even need to say anything. Like you saw from because I was watching like the very first day, straight up, bang, he was at the top. And obviously I know times I mean like the most, but he was always at the top. Doesn't matter what fuel, what engine modes, what tires he was on, he was always right up there. And even Checo got in at the end, right at the end in the third day and went top again. So
not even on the softest tire as well.
Exactly. And in the first day, Max did 157 laps the entire day by himself. 157, so yeah, it's looking ominous, but ultimately this is what sport is all about. When Mercedes were dominating, they were the team to beat, and the question was like, who's going to knock them down? It looked like it might be Ferrari with Seb, and obviously then eventually it was kind of Max with Red Bull, and ultimately now Red Bull are the benchmark. And ultimately I think with Max, he's such a good driver. Like, he to me is the best driver on the grid at the moment. He is the guy that everyone needs to beat. He is again at the top of that echelon, at the top of the tree, and who's going to beat him? That's what it's all about. So yeah, I don't think it's all over, by the way. It's ultimately, I don't think we didn't see too much from I think Ferrari, so where they are is a little bit difficult to judge. Also Mercedes, they could spring a surprise. So even though Red Bull might start as the favourites, it's about who can beat them. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's easy to get carried away thinking that Max is completely untouchable. I think especially because of how impressive he was last year, but also how convincingly he's beaten his teammates for so long now. But no one's untouchable. I think there's plenty of drivers who can go toe-to-toe with Max. Yes, I think Max is the best driver in F1 right now, but like give them the machinery, and I think, Lewis, George, Charles, like Lando, I think there's plenty of drivers on the grid, Fernando, who could go wheel to wheel with Max. Like, it could happen. It just needs to, the other teams not only need to catch up with Red Bull development wise, but they need to kind of, somewhat outdevelop Red Bull to give a driver a chance, because you've got that little bit of Max tax where he's just so good.
Nice. He just
someone
put that on a t-shirt, by the way. Max tax. Copyright that last.
I guess that makes it sound negative, doesn't it? Because the taxes.
Typically,
I mean, I love paying my taxes, HMRC. If you're watching, I really enjoy it.
I don't.
They're coming for you. Don't say that, hey.